Coming up, after the UT system announced an audit of its gender studies courses, how could UTRGV be affected?
Plus, UTRGV football is in its bye week. We'll tell you how the team is spending its extra time in KVAQ Sports.
At the halfway point in the season, everybody's banged up. I think it's an opportunity for us to get healthy. Good chance for our coaches to get on the road recruiting this time of year.
And the city of Harlingen received 2 grants to form a low-cost spay and neuter program.
KVAQ-TV starts now. Good morning, vaqueros. I'm Dathan Trevino.
And I'm Desiree Villanueva. Today is Monday, October 13th, and this is the 7th fall edition of KVAQ-TV.
Let's start things off with our top story.
The UT system is reviewing gender study courses to align with state and federal laws after a new House bill.
Alec Rodriguez with the story.
The Texas Tech University system has directed its faculty across 5 universities to halt discussion on transgender and non-binary identities after House Bill 229 went into effect on September 1st. House Bill 229 defines what biological sex is, such as mother means a parent of the female sex and father means a parent of the male sex. The University of Texas is expecting to audit its gender studies courses in the near future, in accordance with the Board of Regents' priorities and Texas law. At least 10 departments at UTRGV offer a variety of courses on gender studies throughout the academic year, including U.S. gender politics, gender theory, music and gender, psychology of gender, food and gender, and many others. In an email sent by University Marketing and Communications Vice President Patrick Gonzalez to KVAQ-TV, he states, "As for right now, the audits have not started, but that could change at any moment." In press release by Texas Governor Greg Abbott in late January, he states, "This office has consistently reiterated a simple truth. The state of Texas recognizes only 2 sexes, male and female, and sex discrimination consists in treating a member of one sex less favorable than the other, absent some pertinent differences." Political science professor Mark Kazwan says the bill is an ideological debate.
They have this idea that everyone is born as having a particular sex identification, and that is immutable and unchangeable and fixed forever. And that's just not true. Well, let me put it this way. It's very ideological, right? This is all an ideological debate. There's a belief that's mostly, on one side anyway, driven by religious, orientation. And there's a belief by people who, generally by folks who identify as conservative, but a lot of people.
He also says a lot of liberals and conservatives do not distinguish between gender and sex.
For the people who are trans, people who are trans, trying to transition into a different a different sex, or people who are transgender, in other words, they aren't necessarily trying to physically transition, but they identify as someone from a different sex. What this does is it makes them, it's incredibly discriminatory against them, right? It makes them feel like they are pariahs, that they are outcasts of society.
He goes on to say that this, quote, culture war is unnecessary and is driving attention away from healthcare and other issues.
It's a negative impact on freedom of speech, but it's also a negative impact on our ability to have the kind of free and open discussion about issues that learning thrives on, like learning requires.
As for when the UT system will begin the audits is still unknown. However, the UT system has confirmed the reviews will be discussed at the November Board of Regents meeting. For KVAQ-TV in Edinburgh, Alec Rodriguez.
Activities like protests on campuses will now be restricted under a new Texas law.
These changes come after Senate Bill 2972 was signed by Texas Governor Greg Abbott.
Victor Ortega with the details.
I think the mission of universities is to promote critical thinking, to promote knowledge seeking. Part of critical thinking and all that is to express yourself.
Institutions of higher education can now impose restrictions on expressive activities from students and faculty with Senate Bill 2972. The bill, which came into effect in early September, puts new rules on assemblies, speeches, and protests for the last 2 weeks of a semester. Political science assistant professor Álvaro Corral explains some of the rulings of the bill.
There are requirements banning face coverings by those who are engaging in expressive activities, banning expressive activities at certain times of night, so from 10 p.m. to, I think, 8 a.m., which of course opens questions about free speech limitations.
The bill says that some of these measures are to deter activities that, quote, materially and substantially disrupt the functioning of the institution, end quote. Corral says he thinks this new legislation is only a single piece of a larger debate on freedom of speech. Speaking on behalf of the Student Government Association's executive branch, Vice President for External Affairs Ian Alfaro says he thinks the bill might limit students' First Amendment rights.
I think students have the right to be able to express their disagreements here on campus, and I think that this bill discourages that a little bit.
Spaces like the one here on the Brownsville campus are used to seeing students express not only their political opinions, but also their religious beliefs. Speeches, protests, and assemblies can still take place with some limits. They're prohibiting now the use of speakers, signs, and the handing out of pamphlets.
Alfaro says if students have any concerns or opinions on the matter, they are invited to talk to the SGA to make their voices heard to university administrators.
A lot of things, it's going to be up to the administrators to decide. And the good thing is that, hey, this is where student government can help you all out, because we meet with administrators on a month-to-month basis.
Alfaro and Corral say that university administrators have not reached out to the SGA and faculty members about SB 2972. KVAQ-TV tried to get in contact with UTRGV administrators and several student organizations, like the Rio Grande Valley Young Democratic Socialists of America, but did not hear back from them. For KVAQ-TV in Brownsville, Victor Ortega.
Imported prescribed drugs and medication are at risk of a 100% tariff after a proposal made by U.S. President Donald Trump.
Will the proposal take effect? And if so, how will it affect the economy for the country? Jasmine Espinosa with the story.
Pharmaceutical drugs for weight loss, asthma, and cancer may be affected, making it more expensive for people who use these products. Earlier this month, President Donald Trump posted on Truth Social threatening pharmaceutical companies outside of the U.S. with tariffs on branded or patented products unless a company has initiated construction for its manufacturing plants within the country. According to a White House fact sheet, the decision comes from Trump's plan to decrease prices of prescription drugs in the U.S. to match the lowest price offered in other developed nations. However, certified pharmacy technician Natalia Lundstedt says companies such as Eli Lilly that get its products from China and India are more likely to be affected since it's considered one of the main manufacturers.
Definitely with the cost of import. So the ingredients in it would definitely go up. I know Eli Lilly, one of the main manufacturers, would get hit hard with it. But definitely the name brand is already expensive enough. Some of them already cost a couple $1,000s. So the cost of those would go up, and even if it's not name brand, generics will go up too due to the import cost of the ingredients.
Eli Lilly and Company is known for distributing medication on weight loss and diabetes, as stated in a news release from investors that it plans to build a new $6.5 billion facility to manufacture active pharmaceutical ingredients at Generation Park in Houston. Political science professor Álvaro Corral says if companies decide to operate outside of the U.S., companies would need to pay tariffs to the United States Department of Treasury and then recuperate the funds by charging consumers, ultimately leading to an increase on pharmaceutical drugs.
Companies and purchasers would need to pay these tariffs to the National Treasury, and with the moment that they, of course, pay that tariff, they ultimately end up recuperating that as a business by charging it to consumers. So that's the thing about tariffs, right? It's that everyone's very much affected.
Corral says when imposing tariffs, The Trump administration is in favor because it believes it'll benefit pharmaceutical customers. However, this may not always be the case.
However, the argument for people who are imposing these tariffs or are in favor of these tariffs is that in the long term, potentially it could be the case that U.S. consumers benefit if more pharmaceutical drugs are manufactured in the U.S. And so that's the sort of conversation that has to happen sort of simultaneously, right? The long-term effects versus the short-term, typically pain that sometimes consumers have to face.
It is unclear if this tariff will take effect as Trump continues to negotiate with companies to relocate their pharmaceutical manufacturing plant to the U.S. For KVAQ-TV in Brownsville, Jasmine Espinosa.
This week on KVAQ Sports, we check in with UTRGV Athletics during its bye week.
Hey Vaqueros, I'm Juan Carlos Marquez, and we are back for another KVAQ-TV Sportscast update. The UTRGV Vaquero football team is coming off their bye week and getting ready to hit the road, once again this time to face Lamar University. The team used the extra week to recharge and refocus as they enter the next stretch of their inaugural season.
After several hard-fought games, the bye week offered the Vaqueros a chance to rest, recover from minor injuries, and fine-tune their execution. Head coach Travis Bush says the team made the most of the time off, balancing rest with preparation for what's ahead.
At the halfway point in the season, everybody's banged up. I think it's an opportunity for us to get healthy. Good chance for coaches to get on the road recruiting this time of year. But at the same time, the practices, if you notice, they're short. We got to get better fundamentals, details. We've learned a lot about ourselves each week. We're growing. We're going to grow this week. Excited about that possibility. Leadership's the focus this week, and it really had a good team meeting and conversations and lessons on leadership today, and eager to see how we attack.
Bush says the team focused on fundamentals during practice, working on both sides of the ball to improve consistency and communication. Players also spent the time reviewing film to learn from earlier games and make key adjustments before traveling to Beaumont. The Vaqueros are set to face Lamar University this Saturday, a matchup that will test UTRGV's defense against a high-tempo Cardinal offense. The team knows maintaining focus on the road will be crucial. Coach Bush and the Vaqueros hope to carry their energy and discipline for the bye week straight into another strong performance.
Next, the UTRGV swimming and diving program is ready to make a big splash as it enters year 2 of competition. UTRGV opens the season October 11th at UT Permian Basin and will host dual meets against Incarnate Ward on October 18th and New Mexico State on January 10th. To wrap up the season, the Vaqueros will co-host the Mountain Pacific Sports Federation Championships in FAR, marking the first time UTRGV will host a conference championship that includes its own team. Meanwhile, UTRGV women's soccer saw their 2-match win streak snapped after a 1-0 loss to McNeese. The Vaqueros will look to bounce back October 16th when they visit Nichols. And on the court, UTRGV volleyball continue its dominance in Southland play, sweeping Incarnate Ward 3-0 to hand the Cardinals their first loss of the season. That's your KVAQ Sports Update. I'm Juan Carlos Marquez.
The City of Harlingen has received a grant to create a new low-cost spay and neuter program.
The Texas Department of State Health Services issued out a grant to the City of Harlingen for $9,000 to establish a new low-cost spay and neuter program for residents earlier this month. According to the City of Harlingen Environmental Health Director Shannon Harville, the zoonosis grant will only partially pay for the cost of spay and neuter surgeries. To make an appointment, citizens must contact or visit the Harlingen Environmental Health Department to schedule the surgery with the Arroyo Animal Hospital. Harville says residents must bring a few forms of identification in order to be serviced.
They will need to bring with them their W-2 or proof of income, their IRS statement, W-2, things of that sort. And they will need to bring in some type of utility bill that shows that they do reside inside Harlingen city limits.
On a Facebook post by the city's mayor, Norma Sepulveda, the service will cost residents $50 for dogs and $40 for cats. Although the maximum capacity for the first grant of $9,000 has been reached, the city received a second grant by Petco Love, a non-profit animal charity, for $20,000, which Harville estimates will be rolled out in late October or early November. For more information, contact the City of Harlingen Health Department at 956-216-5220 or visit them at 502 East Tyler Avenue. For any updates on the story, please visit UTRGV-TV.com.
Thanks for watching, Vaqueros.
Make sure to catch our next newscast at 8:30 a.m. Monday, October 20th on VCAST monitors and select social medias.
For KVAQ-TV, I'm Dayton Dervino.
And I'm Desiree Villanueva.
Visa up!